After being shut down for much of the past year, the film industry in the state is really making up for lost time. But we found one independent filmmaker, an absolute dynamo, who managed to keep working throughout the pandemic. Take a look.
That is lovely. Love it, love it. I'm super happy everywhere.
That's Jonah Monet on the set of Go Fishing, filming near Baton Rouge. It's one of 5 major projects that kept her and her company, Switchstand Productions, working, she says, 20 hours a day throughout 2020, throughout the emergence of COVID-19, throughout the time when most people in her industry were trying to figure out how to work safely amid a rapidly spreading and deadly worldwide pandemic.
I'm not a person that typically wants to dim my light, but I was very quiet about filming because I knew a lot of people were struggling, especially people who are union workers. And a lot of them are my friends, and they were just struggling. They're not getting any work. And we were just filming away. And we were very cautious and careful about cups and writing names and all these sorts of things. But it didn't slow us down. 2020 was actually really good to me. Really good to me.
Wow. And
yeah,
for the film industry, that's probably you, and I'm not sure who else would be saying that, really, huh?
I've only met a few. But as well, André, great days, great moments don't just happen, they're made. Great days don't just happen, they're made. And great years are the same. And at some point you have to say, okay, these are no longer reasons, they're excuses. I need to get up and do what I want to do and be who I want to be and just go do it.
That attitude has served her well. She left home in Jackson, Mississippi for L.A. when she was about 19, looking to act, and she did. And she modeled, and she put herself in the right place at the right time.
Before I became a writer-director, I was brought on by Wes Cavens, the horror guy, as a producer to produce for him. And so I got very fortunate, and I slightly fell into directing out of necessity because I kept landing on sets that didn't have a strong director, and I had gone to school with all these actors and had already worked with them, and they trusted me. So I started pre-directing them before the scenes would actually be filmed, and that's actually how I kind of fell into directing.
You guys be quiet! You're gonna scare the fish away!
It seems every experience she's ever had has helped shape where she is now. She plans and molds what she does, so what she does is hers.
I am a statistical outlier.
You got the team. It seems like you got the team and the actors. It's almost like a circus kind of.
I have a very, very solid crew and set of cast members that I trust extensively. And I think that was key for me because I know it's all very well. I know what our habits are. I know we're all extremely, I'm not going to say highly neurotic, but we are highly aware of sanitation and being civilized, and we just have really high conscientiousness. So for me, COVID wasn't a huge change because I do everything just like I did before because I was already basically living like that. So I take the same cast with me. I'm kind of like an Adam Sandler kind of thing. You're going to see the same faces in all my films. And I love it, but it's people that I can trust. And for me, that's key. Life in general is not a lone wolf game. It's a team pack game. And the film industry is just a condensed version of that.
And Louisiana, which she loves, is the beneficiary.
I am not going to lie. I've been all over the world, and I have fallen in love with the people, the food, the art, the music, and the culture of Louisiana. I really have. Louisiana has been good to me, good to me.
The film industry statewide had to adjust and keep adjusting. And how did we weather all those many months when it seemed like everybody was doing nothing but retreating? And I think they really were retreating.
Right now, we're back to our pre-COVID numbers. And so it's remarkable. Most of the stuff that was here at the time, whether it was NCIS, Your Honor, Blood Relative came back, which is a TV pilot that's being shot, Paramount shooting it for Fox. And so we're starting to see all of those projects coming back. And as they finish, we're seeing a tremendous amount of projects lining up.
And we owe a lot to Monet, a Mississippi girl with her own joie de vivre, who understands us enough to call us home.
there's just so much to see, and the dichotomy really of parts of Louisiana are rough. It's rough. You go out in the swamp and it will eat you, but yet you can go to a house 2 blocks down the road and you will find the most kind, caring, generous people on the planet, and they will feed you and smile at you and make sure you have a good time and send you on your way. And you really just don't find that anywhere other than right here in this area.
What if you knew you were more likely to get very sick if infected with COVID, or you may not get very sick at all? The Baton Rouge General Hospital says the results of a new study confirms a taste test that centers around the research of a Baton Rouge doctor can predict COVID-19 outcomes. It's a major update to a story we first brought you in mid-September. Remember the taste test pioneered by Dr. Henry Barham of Baton Rouge and the Baton Rouge General Medical Center?
Basically, I'll just give you a couple of strips of paper, and with each one, you just basically lay it on your tongue and suck on it to try to induce a taste. And then you tell me, do you taste sweet, salt, bitter, or nothing?
I didn't taste a thing. He gave me the test in our first report, and when I didn't sense any taste, that put me in a group of people labeled as non-tasters, at high risk for severe problems if infected with COVID-19. Turns out that Barham, a rhinologist who spent years studying the relationship between taste receptors and sinus problems, was onto something big. There's confirmation now that this seemingly simple taste test can predict COVID-19 outcomes and severity.
Or has the potential to take away some of the scary parts of a novel virus. You hear these stories of young people who get really sick without comorbidities, and other people who have comorbidities who seem to do fine. And there's this fear out there where you have family members or you have friends who got very sick from the disease, and you didn't really know why. And you have some people that don't get it with seemingly high exposure, and some of it doesn't make sense. It looks like the non-taster group tests positive for COVID more frequently and have much more severe and longer duration of symptoms. Specifically, the average duration of symptoms in the non-taster group was 23 and a half days or 3.5 weeks versus the super taster group, which average duration was around 5 days.
At the time I took the test, Barham told me further testing could actually show I had the genetic makeup of a taster, but with age, my genetic receptors had dulled. This past weekend, at a holiday gathering with my siblings, Barham, who is my nephew by marriage, got on a FaceTime call as we all lined up to take the test. My sister, his mother-in-law, administered it. One difference, though, from my first test, Barham told me to drink black coffee just before. And the result...
Oh, yeah. Look at him. This is like totally different.
Barham says the black coffee stimulated my genetic receptors. I am a taster after all. According to this data, better equipped if I got infected.
And this has been a really an interesting project to find in the middle of a pandemic, which has dramatically changed our world. It has been, the findings have been incredible.
You're the one who put this to the test first, though. What was the nugget that made you devise this system?
When COVID first started, I kept dealing with a lot of COVID positive patients doing airway surgery where presumably high exposure with daily exposure in patients in the operating room, in the COVID ICU, in clinic, we were seeing people with active COVID, and I never got it. And so if someone were truly to have protection to a novel virus, it would have to be something with innate immunity. Presumably, it would have to be something with innate immunity, which is something that you're born with. The potential importance of this is the predictability of one's infection or one's reaction should they get COVID-19. People who are most at risk of getting a severe and prolonged course of this illness should be first in line to get the vaccine. People who are not would appear to have a much shorter and easier course should allow the others who have the potential to get more sick to get the vaccine. We're trying to figure out now how to administer this test on a global or on a much larger scale. I think we're close in figuring out how to do that, but we will continue to follow our data, continue to go through the peer review process to find any potential holes in the study, and as soon as it is available, to get all of the details out to the public.
The low cost of this taste test is another bonus.
From an altruistic standpoint, I think that this test is beautiful, that you have the potential to predict severity and duration of symptoms of a novel virus with an inexpensive and easily administered test.
Dr. Barham says a taste test for the flu is in the works. If you want to know more about the test, we've got a link on our website to his clinic, lpb.org/SWI. There has been a boom in home gardening since COVID took over our lives. You had people locked down at home and fears of food shortages emerging. I talked with a Baton Rouge woman who is among the legion of gardeners, and she says while the fresh food is great, it is about much more than that. So how did it evolve? How did you decide to do it? Long before COVID clamped down hard on the life we knew, Kathleen Pourciau of Baton Rouge had been floating the idea of planting a vegetable garden. But it took a bout with the winter blues at the same time pandemic lockdowns forced people home to bring her along to the next step in her decision-making process.
And I was laying in that bed in front of the window, and my daughter gave me a phone with all these gardens on Pinterest, and I just kind of piqued my interest in it.
Sparked something. You've never done this before?
I had always loved flowers, but in vegetables intimidated me.
Intimidation or not, it was coming time to plant. So daughter Bonnie Kate became cheerleader and closer of the deal.
We've always had this empty space on the side of our house, and Mom was like, oh, I really want to do a garden, and everyone else was kind of like, that's a huge undertaking and overwhelming to think about the planning and the layout of everything. And so I was like so excited, like, let's do this, let's go for it. And I had an iPad and helped her sketch out her ideas in her brain, and it was so much fun to dream and scheme and envision it all.
She was my partner in it. She was very helpful, incredibly helpful, and instructional, and in ways that I loved and appreciated.
Kathleen also happened to be the only one in her family covering many generations who never quite learned the skills to grow crops. Her mom says all these events came together at the right time to set the table for her daughter.
She got my brother, Wilmer Mills, to come and help her a little bit on the boxes, tell her what kind of dirt to put in, and he gave her a few pointers. I think he was very encouraging. He was positive.
As Kathleen's work began, if she needed answers, she knew where to go.
Every time I go to the nursery, I ask questions to anybody I run into.
Well, I guess when you had your children and nurtured and raised them, you didn't know that much about it, but you learned, and so you're learning this.
Yeah.
And it's the same kind of thing.
It really is. It's nice, and people are willing to help you.
And this season's finished product? It's a flowing mix of vegetables that casually coexist with flowers and fruit trees, pathways and spaces that lead to areas to read a book in solitude, or multiple expansive tables covered in candles for dining al fresco.
It was really fun to make the most of every square foot outside, and I wanted to just facilitate people being able to enjoy each other, and without having to go and grab something and set it up and hang it up or whatever, just be able to walk outside and have places to connect.
But even all that is not Kathleen's favorite part.
Everyone felt the excitement of seeing the first tomato ripen or eating salad with our things in it. I mean, everyone felt that, and also they would come over and sit in the arbor. We just gathered around it.
It was so nice to just be able to be outside together, eat yummy things. I mean, I think it's one of our favorite parts, it is our favorite part of the yard for sure.
And because a true gardener's work is never done, Kathleen is of course already planning for the next season.